Hey everybody, welcome to Philosophy on the Couch. I'm your host Jordan.
And I'm your host Ryan. Today we are going to cover hard copy or digital books, which is better, self-sustainability, who fact checks the fact checkers, and is reheating pizza in the microwave acceptable? Let's find out.
This episode is sponsored in part by Ricky the Rat. Still hanging around. Thanks for sponsoring us for a second time, Ricky. We'll see if we see you next week.
All right, Jordan, how we doing?
Good. Actually, this week, I'm probably going to say this every time, but this week has been crazy. Yeah. So, first off, I don't remember which day it was. All the days blend together, but went into the house and looked on the floor, and I was like, what is all this white crap on the floor?
Yikes.
Yeah, turns out it was ashes. My kids actually found a lighter and had lit some paper on fire inside the house.
No way.
Yeah, I was outside mowing.
Wow.
So, but we still have a house.
That's good you have a house.
Yeah.
I had an uncle who, one of his kids, he was outside doing something and went in, and they're having trouble with the fridge, and it kind of smelled funny, and they pulled it out, and they had found like 2 full boxes worth of matches that had been lit and just tossed back behind the fridge. Which props to them for, they didn't want to get caught.
Yeah,
they
hiding
throw it
it
in the garbage.
Yeah.
Somebody would know.
Yeah, for sure.
Which they got caught anyways, but
Right, but they went for a while without it. Also, another thing that happened that was super fun was the kids had eye doctor appointments, and the twins had to get their eyes dilated. And, they stayed dilated for a while after the fact.
okay.
And they had tennis that night, and we totally forgot that they had had their eyes dilated. So when they said they couldn't see, we were just like, bud, it's okay, just go out there and play and have fun.
Sure.
But they really probably couldn't see.
They couldn't see. It's
So,
too bright.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I have not been to the eye doctor in many years, although I think my 30s are catching up with me because I notice now that it takes me longer to focus on something that's a little ways away.
Okay.
So I feel like
Yeah, maybe it's time.
I'm starting
Maybe you're due.
to fail.
Uh-oh.
And I might as well give up, right?
Body's shutting down.
Pretty much. I might as well stop trying to exercise and eat healthy because it's not going to matter. I can't see anyways.
You only live once. Do you really want to spend your life exercising?
Yeah, kind of. Well, to a degree. Not the whole time, but I also don't want to live my one life sitting on a couch the whole time, other than
It's not the worst.
the philosophy
The philosophy couch would be okay.
That's fine. But no, it's been a good week. I think it's plain old normal week for me, work and things like that. Hopefully everything has been a great week for you guys listening out there. Who was our rat friend?
Yeah, Ricky the Rat.
Ricky the Rat. 'Cause I just saw Ricky the Rat.
Really?
I did. Ran right over top of your head, Jordan.
Oh, fantastic. I'm sure glad I put my chair underneath this one rafter.
Right. Well, you know what? Ricky needs a place too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Not for long, hopefully. I put a trap out.
I bet listeners love to hear about trapping mice.
This is what happens when you live in the woods.
That's true.
Or
That's
have your
true.
cabin in the woods, anyway.
Right.
So.
One thing that I want to do with my time,
Mm-hmm.
more than I do, speaking of sitting on couches and exercising, is I don't feel like I read enough.
Preach.
I should read a whole lot more than I do. But
Yeah. I feel that.
I enjoy reading. I just don't feel like I have time, but I do because I fill up my time with TV.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't really have a good excuse. Although, the average millionaire reads, I believe, 3 nonfiction books a month on average.
Wow.
So
Are we sure it's not just like 6 of them just going to town and that's all they do is read nonfiction books and the rest of them get a good rap?
no, I don't think so. This is your average everyday millionaire. So
Yeah, just
and that's
the
the other.
ones
A lot of people think, but So we can talk about this at some point. A lot of people think that everyone who gets to be a millionaire inherits money. Not always the case.
I mean, I don't know if I would have thought that.
Well, a lot of people think that it's impossible to get to $1 million.
See, I understand that thought process, but I was actually just going to say, I think it's actually easier to get to that point as long as you can actually stick to a plan,
Right.
which is hard. And I am totally in that boat. You know, I bought a skid steer, so
Right.
you know, I totally get that.
It was in the fine print of the plan,
Yeah, sure.
essentially. I'm just
There's a clause for everything.
trying to give you an out. So, but I mean, lots of good books out there too on how to do that well. But
right.
yeah,
But I guess that can go right into the first topic here. Books, digital or, print copy, actual physical books. What do you prefer?
what do I prefer?
Yeah. And why?
I understand. I understand that digital books are really nice. They're convenient, and they give you access to so many books just at your fingertips. So there's some positives in that. I can tell you that I've never finished a digital book that I've started.
That's fair.
And it's not the same to me. So for me, preference, I'm going to go with an actual physical copy of the book in my hands.
Yeah.
Feeling the paper, turning the pages. Totally different experience for me.
Do you have an ebook reader, whether that be a Kindle or just...
Well, I've got a smartphone.
I was going to say your phone.
With Kindle. Maybe I don't have Kindle on there anymore. I don't know, but
you do not have a dedicated book platform.
I do not.
Okay.
I personally do not. I know people who do, and they use it quite a bit all the time. I just personally, I just have never gotten into it.
That's fair.
How about you?
So I agree. I do prefer physical books over digital books. That being said, I do have a Kindle Paperwhite, and it's actually pretty awesome in the sense that it really does look almost like you're reading a physical book.
Sure.
It obviously doesn't feel like it because it's, a thin tablet, but...
And those have improved a lot, right? I mean,
they have. And the screen is the big thing, right? Versus like a smartphone or a regular tablet that has a lot of glare and has, the way it is backlit and functions is differently versus
right.
The Kindle it's got like the electronic ink or whatever it is. So it's interesting. So I do really like it, but
what do you find yourself using more frequently?
Standard books. Yeah, definitely. And when I was in the military, we weren't allowed to have electronics at our jobs for multiple reasons. But yeah, so I had a lot of books that, I'd bring up to work with me.
Sure.
Sure.
So for you, let me pose this question.
Sure.
Looking between books and a Kindle, let's just use Kindle because it's pretty much the most popular, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think you could make an argument that one or the other is probably better for the environment.
Sure.
Which do you think it would be?
I don't know. I can't imagine that Kindles take a lot of, you know what I mean? I'm sure that it's pretty generic parts, so it's like a lot of off-the-shelf stuff. I can't imagine that they're getting tons of super specific, like, it's not like there's a plant, purely for production of Kindles. And then, like, batteries as well. And then you're also, I mean, how many books are made with recycled paper? Probably a lot. But, I mean, what? I don't know.
I think my gut feeling goes towards saying that the standard book would be actually better for the environment. And I only say that based off of the materials that go into a circuit board, the mining that has to happen for those. And
it's pretty minute, though.
Minute per Kindle, right?
That's what I mean.
But put that on a grander scale.
Yeah, but how much of that mining is done for other things?
Or the batteries.
Then, like I said,
batteries aren't necessarily... they might last a long time, but you have the same issue. The materials put into it.
Sure.
I think a standard book can last... will outlast a Kindle if taken care of. Easily.
if taken care of.
Sure.
But that's the thing. You start throwing them in your backpack even, you know.
Well, you shouldn't throw them for one.
Well, you know, I like to shoot hoops, you know. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Even, like, putting it in there nicely, it just gets jostled around and stuff. You know, like, I had brand new books that I had for work, you know.
Sure.
Or that I bought so I could take them with me to work. And, you know, after a week or two in the backpack, because, you know, I don't get that much time to read at work, or I didn't, it started looking like a well-worn book, you know.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, that's just from me. If anybody else reads it and takes it and, you know, does the same thing, they break down pretty quick.
Were they hard copy or were they paper copy?
Paperbacks.
Well, that's part
is
of it,
part of it.
possibly.
For sure.
I don't know. It'd be an interesting thing to look into. I don't have any particular knowledge in this. So if we've got anyone out there who manufactures books or Kindles listening and you
Yes.
want to set us straight, I mean, you can set us straight. But
Please do.
I'm just taking a wild guess. I just feel like at the end of the day, what's better for the long run? Is it using organic substances or is it, you know,
Sure.
toxic? I think I'd go with the organic substances.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the viewpoint. I understand it.
You just don't agree with it.
Not entirely.
That's fine.
Because how often do books end up in landfills? and not
Probably
get
a lot.
recycled?
But they rot to nothing.
Sure, it's not that they don't decompose, because yeah, they do. It's paper, right? Of course, that's going to go pretty quickly.
Right.
But, I mean,
How about your electronics
mhm,
that are purchased that end up overseas somewhere
mhm,
and they end up being where they're harvesting the valuable metals off of it,
sure,
essentially by dissolving it with toxic stuff that like the rivers over there in places and things like that just destroyed by
right,
trying to recycle gold and silver
sure,
out of these circuit boards.
right,
I mean, I think there's a bigger domino effect on the electronic side than on the paper side.
Probably.
But that's only if you've got good forest management.
sure,
Because let's say everybody switched from Kindle to reading paperback books and they didn't take care of them, so they just go buy a new book, whatever, because paper
Yeah.
was cheap because we're cutting down trees like crazy kind of
right,
a thing.
right, just clear.
Well,
cutting.
that's not good either.
right.
So
Yeah,
I don't know. I think paper is more sustainable.
that's fair. I'm getting just another pro to the Kindle versus, and you already brought this up, but just the fact that you can have so many books in one small device versus like,
Sure.
well, I've got a library, which is cool, and I'm okay with that, but I can't take my library with me,
Right.
you know?
But if you've got a legit library, why would you go somewhere and why not bring people to your library? Because I feel like, let me just paint this picture for you, Jordan.
Sure. I'm going to sit back and listen.
You
close my eyes.
walk in. Yeah, I invite all of you to close your eyes and imagine this with us. This is going to be probably the best experience you're going to have today. So close your eyes, just walk with me. You walk into your gorgeous chateau, or I don't know, your gorgeous home, and you've prioritized physical copies of books, fiction, nonfiction, historical books, all of that. You walk into your library with a large leatherback, high-back chair and a box of cigars on a small table next to it, and your drink of choice on the other table. You sit down, you pick up this nice, thick, leather-bound book, and you smell the leather, and it's just home, and you begin to read, and you soak in the words. Now, contrast that with this. Close your eyes. You walk into your house, and you pick up your Kindle with a cracked screen, and you push on the buttons because they're not working well, and the battery's low, so you can only read for a few minutes, and then, I mean, you burn your dinner because you've been in a rush to try and read those 15 minutes to fit them in. I mean, it's just not going to work for me. No? You didn't like that journey?
That's fine. That's fine.
You don't like romanticizing the
How
physical
many
copy
leather-bound
books?
books do you have?
One. But I'm going to have a giant
Yeah.
library full of them
Yeah.
eventually.
It also smells of rich mahogany, right?
Yes. And beard oil from Dr. Squatch.
Mm.
Dr. Squatch, if you want to reach out to us, sponsor.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
It's high quality stuff, man.
Mm.
I love it.
Well, free sponsorship for you right there.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Every man with a beard should try it once.
Mm. I guess I'll have to try it then.
I'll bring you a sample.
Perfect.
Anyways, back to the subject of books. I don't know. There's in anything you kind of romanticize the old way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
But I think that there's probably an element of psychology that fits into that, let's say, where it's just a different experience mentally to pick up
Absolutely.
a paper copy of a book
Right.
and read it.
Yeah. It's totally a convenience thing that the Kindle fills, or the e-reader in general fills, right?
Sure.
Because it's like, oh, well, I've got a business trip, or I'm going on a trip for whatever, just a vacation. And then, are you gonna stick in like a book, or are you gonna stick in like 60 books? Because with the e-reader, you can do that.
That's fair.
And then you're like, oh, well, I'm really not in the mood. I don't know. Actually, this is another question. Do you jump around books, or are you only like one book at a time? You gotta finish it before you can start another. Because that, I think, definitely can sway you one way or the other. Because if you don't like to read more than one book at a time, yeah, then the e-reader has a lot less appeal. But
Yeah, I'm definitely one book at a time.
okay,
I can only commit to one.
okay,
And if I was going to jump, I would never go back to it, I feel like.
that's fair.
So,
That's fair. I am normally one book at a time, but I've definitely picked up, 3 or 4 at a time, depending on.
3 or 4.
Yeah. What? You look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, because why would you read 3 or 4 books at a time?
Because they're different. And
No way. No way. Can't believe they're different.
I know. Well, they're different in the sense that storylines are generally. I'm not gonna read like 4 fantasy books, or 4 sci-fi books at a time, because that would get confusing.
Right. So
But,
you have
if
your
it's like-
romance, you have your bromance, you have your...
Yeah, because that wouldn't get confusing. Just a bunch of different types of romance novels.
I said bromance.
It's still a romance novel.
You think so?
I don't know. I haven't read one.
Well,
you tell me.
I don't know either. I don't think they exist.
I bet
That's
they
going on
do.
my list. Book number 1,
A bromance novel.
bromance novel. First bromance novel in history.
Mm.
You know what, though? Some of those old Westerns,
Yeah.
I feel like where the 2 cowboys go out and survive, that's kind of a bromance, isn't it? They just
Yes.
don't talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
What are you referencing?
Nothing. Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, like I said, if you don't, I can see the even less appeal for an e-reader.
Sure.
But
So I think the other thing that comes into play with your paperback or actual paper books versus digital is at the end of the day, let's say power goes out.
right.
What are you supposed to do? You're not going to be reading if all you've got is a Kindle. I mean, you'll read for a little while, but that's
Right.
it. Those books are gone.
Right.
They aren't going to last essentially because they
Sure.
don't really exist physically.
Right. Absolutely. That's when you need to have your self-sustainability.
Self-sustainability.
Yeah.
Just for the books. Nothing else.
Purely for the books.
So, self-sustainability.
Yeah.
You're kind of passionate about that subject
I think
to a degree. I wouldn't say passionate necessarily,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
definitely something that piques your interest.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I wouldn't even say like we're really working towards 100% self-sustainability, but I mean, we're trying to be more self-sustainable out here for sure. We have chickens, some courtesy, of you, so thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, we would love to do solar at some point, I think,
Sure.
in some capacity. We looked it up to do full off-grid solar for the way our house stands now and roughly the power we use. I think it's like 30 grand, so it's not really,
Sure.
you know.
At this point, but solar is getting cheaper. But
It is.
so then, we talked about this a little bit last week. I think that you kind of wanted to have a conversation about it. But is there something specific as far as like how important do you think it actually is, right? And then how much do you think people should have, as far as the level of sustainability that they are equipped with? So it's kind of the subject that we were talking about, and you were saying to a degree, people should have a certain amount or have an understanding, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the more self-sustaining you can be, I mean, the better it is, right? Because then if something does happen, at least you can, find your way at least a little bit.
So for people who are listening, where do you start, right? So
Yeah.
we're a group of people in this country that, for better or worse, right? I mean, I'm not blaming us for being this way.
Sure.
I mean, we took advantage of modern conveniences.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
okay. That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
they've improved people's lives like crazy. But I agree with you to a certain extent. We got to get back to understanding how to do things ourselves.
Yeah.
Even in the simplest of forms of how do you supply food for yourself,
Yeah.
even in the smallest amounts.
Yeah.
But
So I think that's actually a really good place to start. And maybe it is less accessible in a larger metropolitan area, but at the same time, go take a cooking class that's more focused on maybe a butchering aspect than a actually cooking aspect,
Sure.
Because if you don't know how to, I think everybody could figure out how to, to kill the animal that they need to get for food. But once you're there, how do you get it to the place that you're going to be able to cook it?
Where it's usable.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. Like I mean, I don't know. For us, I mean, we grew up in an area where hunting is pretty prevalent, and so most people, or maybe not most people, but a lot of people know, how to, skin and gut an animal.
Right, or they've at least been exposed to it.
Right. And it's not glamorous, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, you can't cook that food. Or you're getting way less if you're just cutting chunks of meat off of the outside of a deer
Sure.
or, whatever animal.
Right.
So it's a valuable skill. And it's something that, I guess another thing that you could do if you didn't want to take a cooking class or something like that, go fish. Go try fishing out. It's not. I mean, it's not always easy, and you're not always going to catch something.
Right.
But that's another avenue towards self, reliance and self sustainability.
So do you think, and do you guys think out there too, I mean, you could shoot us an email, but do you think that you almost have to start, let's take your stuff, but let's take a step back from that and say, do you almost have to start where people figure out, where does my food actually come from? Is that really the first step to self-sustainability as far as on the food side of it? Because honestly, most of us in the country take for granted that food just shows up in the grocery store and then on our plate.
Right.
And sometimes, less and less, we cook.
Yeah.
People
for
don't
sure.
cook as near as much. They buy it.
Yeah.
And so
Whether it's prepackaged or they just go out to a restaurant. Or,
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in those larger areas, I feel like that happens more. I think it probably happens enough here too.
I think it does. I think rural areas, same deal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not always.
I mean, I think about that, and I'm pretty sure my grandpa probably doesn't cook at all anymore.
I think he makes a lot of trips to some fast food places.
Yeah.
But you know what? Then he gets to sit at the table of knowledge and things like that, I'm sure.
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, to a degree, I don't know if we understand where food comes from in the first place.
Yeah.
And so part of that is, whatever your feeling of hunting is,
Sure.
and maybe you might have a specific type of diet that you think is the correct way, whether it's for health reasons or
Right.
Moral reasons,
Right. Yeah.
anything like that. But even whatever kind of food you're eating, if you don't have an idea of where it comes from,
Right.
man, I think I think we got to educate ourselves.
For sure. I mean, you bring that up, right? So like, totally vegan and vegetarian, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That you do you. But yeah, like, do you guys grow gardens? Because I mean, that's obviously a pretty good first step. You know.
Right. And
Do you know what things? If I'm not saying that you guys are just gonna go get lost in the wild, but if you were out, and something happened, would you be able to find food that you need? Would you
Right.
know what to look for? I mean, I'm not like ultra survivalist, super proficient here, but
you like to think you are.
I do like to think I am.
No, I'm just kidding. But
I've got some books.
yeah. But what's interesting about this topic, and I've referenced Jordan Peterson before,
Mm-hmm.
Canadian psychologist, right? And so the question was posed to him: at what point or what type of circumstance can happen that will take a civilization and essentially unravel all of the accepted norms and values and things like that have held it together? And what's something that can cause that to start unraveling? Which, some would say, you look around the world or the U.S. even, we've got some conflicts.
Right.
Whatever side you would, think you're on with that. I mean, that's not what I'm saying is we just have conflicts. I mean, that's
Right.
just a fact, right?
Right.
And so there's
People
something
disagree.
where our fabric is kind of unraveled a little bit.
Sure.
And so what's something that can really set that off to where it actually unravels and you've got, major long-term issues as a society,
Right.
like collapsing, things like that.
Right.
And so he was posed that question, and his response was a major catastrophic economic collapse.
Sure.
And this isn't like talking recession or anything like
Right.
that, but this is like your economy is totally down and out, total collapse.
Yeah.
Because, and the thing that he brought up as one of the main reasons is because we're so far removed from our food supply and
Right.
sources
Yeah.
that overnight, if something happened, we wouldn't have a clue at what to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right up there is safety and food. And if you're not providing food
Right.
and you don't know how to get it,
Yep.
you're going to make some decisions that you wouldn't normally make.
Right.
And they're going to be bad ones
Right.
most of the time.
Right.
So it's just interesting that, it's not even, we maybe started this discussion a little bit on the being self-sustainable with, having
With
your own
power.
power
Yeah.
supply and things like that. But on its smallest scale,
Right.
as a society, we probably need to start opening our eyes a little bit to where's our food come from.
Right.
And you know what? If you've got food and you run out of power, you might be able to,
Mm-hmm.
pull out of that.
Right.
But if you don't have food, there's no shot.
Right.
People are going to be doing whatever they can to survive.
To get food. Yeah. It's also depends on where you are too, right? Like obviously we're in Minnesota. It gets really cold here in the winter.
Right.
So I mean that brings on a whole different aspect of self-sustainability in a we've kind of gone to the like post-apocalyptic scenario, but
Right.
so like in that scenario I suppose it looks a lot different than someone in Texas, where they can be out the entire
Right.
year and like sure you might see snow like once every 5 years, but
Yeah.
ooh, that's you can live through that.
Whole lot harder
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot more challenges for sure.
at least we don't have venomous
It's true.
snakes and bugs and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
There's trade-offs, right?
Right.
There's trade-offs.
Right. So I mean, I didn't want to bring this up, but I feel like I
But
need
you're
to. In the event of the zombie apocalypse,
Ooh.
I feel like then you have a huge benefit of being up here where you at least have a time of the year where they would freeze.
Yeah.
Not that I actually believe that there's going to be a zombie apocalypse. So
Yeah.
stop judging me out there. But I think bringing it back into self-sustainability,
Yeah.
I think there are benefits, removing the food a little bit, but even the idea that you can do some basic things and problem solving on your own. You know, if it's convenient to bring your car in to have the oil changed.
Right.
That's cool. That's awesome. Supports that person.
Yep.
They've got a job and you're supporting the business, things like that. Great. But when you're in a pinch or you've got a financial issue,
right,
just even those little bit of skills to be able to do something like that.
For sure.
Or the electricity side of it, I mean, self-sustainability, having that, I mean, that's just, it's better for you in the long run. And it's getting to where it makes more sense financially as that technology improves.
Absolutely.
But yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not having to suck off the power grid, great.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like the idea of it, and
absolutely.
And we've thought about, maybe not full off the grid, partial on, or, on the grid, but we still have 50% or, whatever, some arbitrary number.
Right. Well, at least you could, if there was a natural disaster where you were without power for a week and you could have lights on,
or
that would be great.
The fridge continues to run.
Right.
Some like basic things.
Right.
Would be, huge. Huge.
Running water. That'd be sweet. Could you imagine life without running water?
I mean, I can. It doesn't feel like it's good. So, fun fact, the cabin that we're sitting in right now doesn't have running water, and I lived in this cabin for a summer.
Did you really?
Yes, we did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was quick backstory here, when my parents bought this land initially, they moved a house actually out here to the other side of the road. There's the property is split by a road. They moved a house to the other side, but while that was getting prepped, we built the basement and, moved the house. While that was happening, we lived in this cabin. Wow. And it was during the summer, but there were some chilly mornings.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. So for showers, we heated up water in a pot on a camp stove outside, and you poured it in one of those camp showers, and you had it lasts for it was a 5-gallon camp shower, so it lasts a couple minutes, and you reach up and turn it on, you get wet, it's like it's that self-sustainable piece for sure, because all the water we got was by a hand pump that's actually still out there.
Sure.
So
that's interesting. Do you think if we had a level of self-sustainability and people understood, to a degree, how hard it is to get water, where food comes from, even an idea of how much power they're using and the effects of that, do you think that we would be a little bit more conscious about the amount of resources we use and we would be less wasteful?
Maybe. I don't know how long that would last, because hopefully somebody will listen to this and they'll be like, oh man, I never thought about that, or I never thought about that. And then hopefully they will be. But, how long is that effect going to last?
Sure.
Until it's truly gone. I think it'll last for a while. And maybe some people, it will have a longer lasting impact. But I think for the average person, it'll impact them for a little bit, and then they'll slowly start to go back to their standard way of life, which that's fine. Thinking about it, do you think people would also appreciate the variety we have, especially when it comes to food?
Oh, yeah.
Because you think about it, right? And you're like, okay, well, what can I do? So there's like a little lake across the road, right, that has fish in it. Well, I could go fish for food. But man, if you're eating fish every day,
right,
you're going to get sick of fish real quick.
My grandma always complains when we have certain meals. She'll always complain. Not because she's complaining about the food, like she eats it and enjoys it, but she'll always say, when we were growing up, we had pancakes every day, or we had potatoes every day. That's all we ate was pancakes or potatoes or something like that, because it was cheap and that's what they could that's what they could eat. That's what they were able to grow. So I think we would have a little bit better idea of the variety if we get to eat. And part of that is when I look at gardening, because I've got a small garden this year. We had to cut back a lot 2 years ago.
Small is subjective. I look at your garden and I'm like, that's big. That's a lot bigger than mine. I don't have one.
Well, okay. Sure. But I mean, one year we had an 80 by 80 plot that we gardened. And
Okay.
we froze and canned so much stuff. It was awesome. But no, so where was I, Jordan, before you interrupted me?
You're saying you had a small garden.
Yeah, okay, I remember that part, but I don't remember why I was saying I had a small garden. Variety, yes. So you look at the things that you could grow here.
Right.
And you've only got a certain window where we're at as far as what can be grown.
For sure.
Even if you're in southern states, you've only got certain types of things that do well in heat.
Yeah.
There's some things that just don't do well in heat.
Right.
Part of it, too, is what can you grow that can be kept, that can be stored well.
Yep.
It limits what you can have. So when you go shopping, you go to the grocery store and you pick up a bag of oranges and you get home and you cut those oranges open and you're like, these suck. These are terrible. I mean, that happens fairly often, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks because it's out of season.
Yep.
We technically shouldn't be eating oranges year round, right?
Right.
So there's this idea too that I think can be helpful in sustainability is if we start to learn what's in season, what should we be buying when and eating when, because you're going to get the best flavor out of it. We're used to having whatever we want when we want it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't think it is.
It feels great.
It does.
But
I'm super grateful to be living now and not in like the 20s was the Great Depression, right? The 1920s?
Late.
Okay.
And 30s.
So, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm glad I'm not living then because you go, oh, man, we had the same thing every day. Man, no variety.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's take a quick word from our second sponsor.
This episode is sponsored in part by you, the red-blooded American people, and we're so glad you're listening. Hey, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. So thanks for listening, you guys. And if you want to sponsor us for real, send us an email. We can get you set up with that. Thanks, guys. All right, so welcome back, you guys. Thanks for tuning in to our sponsor there. And this week it was you.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So,
and if, just in case you don't remember, philosophyotc@gmail.com.
So that was a pretty good discussion on self-sustainability. I think we could go way deeper than that. Because there's so many aspects.
We could probably do like 5 or 6 episodes just worth of this because I think we both enjoy this topic and going over how deep, do you want to get with it. So
right. And the plus side to it, I think, as well, is there is a renewed interest in this, right? So we ordered chickens this spring. They were like delayed multiple times because everybody's ordering chickens.
Right.
And so one quick thing I was thinking about too that's really cool is when you start to get into understanding where your food's coming from and you start to raise your food, you waste less because now we have chickens. So guess what we do from the beans in our garden and all the other things and all the little ends that we're picking off? They go in a jar and they go out to the chickens because it's great food for the chickens. So you do waste less just by...
It's true.
And so this is something that I think is important for us to talk about, but also you can find tons of information out there. There's blogs everywhere, YouTube videos. You can get so much good information just by seeing what other people do. Yeah. I watch people and their gardening videos all the time, and I've gotten so many different little tips and tricks that I use now that helps improve my experience and making it easier. Yep. So there's all sorts of information out there. Yep. And there's information on everything, right? For sure. Trouble is, gardening, I think it's okay. You might run into something that's not true, but at the end of the day, how much did it hurt you? Right. You tried it and it didn't work. Right. But there's information overload everywhere, and you don't necessarily always know if it's true. And so that's what I wanted to get into a little bit in this episode was the idea of how do you know what's true out there? And a lot of people I don't blame it for having come about. And it's a good idea in theory, right? Sure. But we have fact checkers everywhere now. Right. And so you take those fact checkers and you're like, so Snopes is a big one and people get on there. Yep. And it's like, hey, that must and it obviously must be correct because it's a
fact-checked.
fact checker.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been checked.
So it's something that's really interesting, but I also have the question in my mind, who fact checks the fact checkers?
Right.
Because
there are never-ending tiers of fact checkers.
right.
We check the fact checkers that fact check the fact checkers.
Right, but you jump on there and you make this assumption that it's going to be true, and there's data out there that kind of says they're not necessarily always true, or they're taking something that isn't a fact and they're treating it as if it were a fact and saying that it's either true or false.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of the big question sometimes is, how do we know it's true? How do we know they are actually saying the right thing, or they're actually looking at the truth? Right?
Right. I mean, how do we?
Well,
Do you have the answer?
I
need the answer.
I don't have the answer.
What does Snopes say?
What does Snopes say? Snopes, how do you fact check the fact checkers? No, I don't have the answer. I've got some interesting information.
Okay.
And I hesitate to even, bring up information that I found online.
Right.
Because obviously,
yeah,
who knows if this fact checker got fact checked. It's just ridiculous. But
yeah,
part of the issue is, well, first I want to get your opinion on fact checkers.
Sure.
Good, bad, should we trust them? What do you think?
Man, I think it really depends on which ones you're looking at. That being said, I have no idea or recommendations for which ones you should follow.
That's fair.
But I mean, I would probably do a little bit of like digging to see if the person or the website was reputable. You know what I mean?
So how do you define if it's reputable?
I mean, if I look into it and it satisfies me with what I've found about the website.
It fits with your bias.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
That's exactly
I'll head over to Reddit and say, ask, like, what do you guys think of this?
Sure. Well, you'd get a lot of answers there, wouldn't you?
Tons, yeah.
So you want a reputable site, but even the ones that we consider reputable have some issues.
Sure.
And so one of those issues, and I brought it up a couple minutes ago, but and to me this is huge, right? So we're expecting fact checkers to be checking facts, like, is this true or false?
Right.
But they're often checking opinions rather than a factual claim.
Right.
And part of the problem is that people can come to two completely different opinions off of the same set of facts.
Right.
And so we see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
You can twist facts into whatever you want. So part of the issue is that somebody, they're taking facts, they're making a statement about it, and then the fact checkers say, well, no, that's not correct.
Sure.
Well, they're not really saying if the facts are correct. They're saying the interpretation of the facts isn't correct.
Right.
So whose interpretation is correct?
Right. Then you're just going with whoever's bias that you prefer.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a site out there. I'm not going to name the site. You'd be able to find it.
Okay.
That essentially attempts to fact check the fact checkers.
Okay.
And it's not so much that it actually fact checks, but it rates them on how often these sites check opinions versus actual facts.
Like, yeah. Okay.
And so they'll check, Snopes, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, New York Times, Washington Post, Weekly Standard, a bunch of them. Sure. They'll go in and they'll check those and they'll rate them.
Okay.
Now, interesting things that they find is that about a quarter of the Post fact checks were actually checking opinions.
Sure.
And they were rating them as true or false when it was literally an opinion.
Right.
And then what it also does, this website, is it will it'll check their sources. How did they come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
And this is the number that just drove me a little bit insane in thinking, well, you can't trust any fact checkers then. Is because so they looked at a particular month
Uh-huh.
They took a month, and they took all of the fact checks done by Snopes.
Sure.
Okay?
Snopes being one of the biggest like fact checkers.
Right.
Or one of the most popular.
Right. And they found that in this month, 90% of Snopes fact checks
Yeah.
used other media as their sources. They didn't actually go to the information as the source. They used other media as their sources.
That was not a good month for Snopes.
No, it's terrible. It's like, how can you trust that?
It's lazy, I feel like, on Snopes' part.
It's super lazy, but that's part of the issue too that you get into, that, you know, some of these concerns being raised about fact checkers was
Right.
they're hiring. So for instance, Facebook has their own fact checkers now.
I'm sure they do. For what?
So for news that's posted on Facebook
Gotcha.
or articles,
Sure.
they will have it rated on its level of truthfulness, and it's got fact checkers. Now, it's interesting because a lot of these fact checkers are actually just people hired to do this fact checking.
Right. Just you or me. Just
You or
random.
me, or people that are, you know, getting started as a journalist, all
Sure.
that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And same idea with Snopes. They're not always, and who knows how much, using actual sources as much as
Sure.
looking at other media sources. And so you're taking someone who is completely untrained in the world of fact checking and research and things like that.
Right.
And then they begin to label things as true, partially true, untrue, or even to like the label, is it Snopes that uses pants on fire?
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. I don't actually use Snopes.
One of them uses pants on fire as a label.
That's
and
funny.
so you've got people who are rating opinions as true or pants on fire based off of someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
And then you've got millions of people who are taking this
As fact.
as fact. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to get good information ever at all if that's how we're going about this?
Yeah.
We're so lazy.
I was going to say, it just comes down to you just got to actually look and do some actual research, not just, oh, well, that's what Snopes said, or that's what this person said, or that's what that person said.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
It's terrible. And we wonder why we can't get our act together. But, I mean, in all fairness, if we feel like these people are out there to do the work for us,
Right.
and put the trust in it,
You
we're
reap
going
what
to
you
believe
sow.
it. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you're trusting all these people to do the work for you. So, they start doing a crappy job, or they start feeding you what they want to feed you, and you're going to start to believe it, and then eventually you're going to start to buy whatever narrative they're writing you.
Sure.
And that's not to say one thing or another about anything political,
Right.
but you know what I mean? I think that is a fair verbiage.
Well, I
use.
think let me get political
political,
for a second
Okay. Sure.
and just say we're all probably buying crap that's fed to us. I don't
Sure,
care
either
what side you're on.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got random people telling you if it's true or not based off of somebody else's opinion.
Right. Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's such a strange thing to me. But I'm totally lazy too, right? I don't always look into the facts and look at everything and take the time to go through a report or a study or things like that. But
Right.
hey, I feel like
Or
maybe
several.
I should.
Reports or studies.
Sure, but to even say that we know exactly what one was saying,
Well, right, for sure.
I mean, we depend on somebody else to go through and they pull out a piece of it.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. It's the next piece of it could be what clarifies what that actually meant.
Right.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
You don't know what to believe half the time.
Yep.
It's crazy.
So I think what the conclusion that we're coming to is you need to actually just dig into things for yourself and not just trust online fact checkers.
Well, that'd be the conclusion. The other conclusion I have is I'm still feeling pretty lazy. But here's the deal, and this is what I would say. Don't just jump on board and take it as 100% truth. I mean, I feel like to a degree, it's okay to say, yeah, generally that fits, I feel like. But I would never say, I'm going to have an argument with somebody over this because I read this headline or I went to Snopes.
Right.
And they said this was only half true. So you're half wrong, buddy.
Yep.
But I don't know. Especially Snopes, I'm like, no way. I'm not touching Snopes again.
Now you're done.
After that, 90%
Yeah.
of their sources are based off of just some other media opinion.
Yeah, that's not
terrible.
It's not good. Sorry,
I don't know,
Snopes,
man.
But if you want to sponsor us,
well, you know what? Maybe if they listen to this, they'll be
Shape
a
up.
little bit embarrassed
Yeah.
about that. I doubt it,
Yeah, I doubt it too.
but I don't know. I should have looked my next question up on Snopes
Should have.
and seen if it was, or my statement.
Sure.
But that's
Ooh.
okay. I'll pass. So it's sort of a question, sort of a statement. It's a loaded question. Maybe that's a better way to
Perfect.
phrase it. And
That's what everybody loves, a good loaded question.
well, so here's the deal.
Yep.
Can we all agree that pizza is awesome?
I think most of us can.
Sure. It's okay if you don't. I mean, that's fine. You can eat what you want. There's more pizza for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But pizza, I feel like pizza is awesome because there's so many options that everyone could get something they liked
Right.
when it comes to pizza.
Yep. Most definitely.
It's just great. But here's the dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Leftover pizza.
Yeah. Why it's not
so
a
many
dilemma.
ways.
It's still good.
No, but there's so many ways to enjoy leftover pizza.
That's true.
Um,
Cold.
and so we can get there, but let me just bring in my question first, okay?
Fine.
So here's the deal.
Mm.
You say cold. I'm on board. We can talk about that, but most people, maybe not most, a lot of people, I would bet a majority.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back and forth here.
Maybe.
But
Yeah,
I think
maybe not. I don't know.
I would
Snopes
bet I would bet a majority would like their leftover pizza reheated.
Sure. I do reheat my pizza as well. Sometimes.
Sure.
I'm 50-50.
Sure. But majority of people I think would like it reheated. And so here's my question.
Okay.
Is reheating pizza in the microwave ever acceptable?
Ever acceptable?
And I say that with a really strong line because I
think
I
sometimes.
want to take a strong opinion on it. I don't want to be flip-floppy like microwaved pizza.
So I think I know where you're going here, but I'll say it is okay sometimes. Not very frequently, but man, if you're like, I gotta have it hot because some pizzas just don't taste great if like cold, right?
Give me an example.
I feel like that comes down to certain
Toppings.
I was gonna say more like brands.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could do a whole episode just on pizza too. I feel like
I would love to talk about pizza for an hour.
maybe next week we'll talk about pizza more.
Probably not, though.
Probably not.
Oh, maybe. Who knows?
I was gonna say, so like for example, I don't personally feel like Little Caesars is good cold.
Okay.
So I would want that heated up.
I think so. Can I just ask
Personally.
why? And because I think that maybe I would agree. I haven't had it for a while, but I feel like Little Caesars pizza, the cheese almost gets a weird sogginess.
It might. I don't know.
It's like a hard sogginess. It's weird. I enjoy Little Caesars fresh though.
Yeah.
It's a good cheap pizza.
People who rag on it, it's a $5 or $6 pizza. Okay, you cannot have your expectations high with it.
It's amazing for a $5 pizza.
Absolutely agree.
It's great.
I'm glad we agree.
And it's
on this.
100% real cheese. How can you can't get 100% real cheese at Walmart for less than $5.
I mean, probably can, but
Well,
the whole pizza's worth.
I'm
I
sorry,
don't know.
Walmart, but I doubt you're going to sponsor us.
But that's an example, in my opinion, of a pizza that should probably be warmed up if you have it left over. So,
Sure.
in what scenario would I say that is okay to put in a microwave versus another form?
Yeah.
Would be if you or like you got to get going out the door, but you're like, I cannot have this cold. So you're
Okay.
going to stick it in the microwave. I think that's an okay. I think it's
so an
acceptable.
absolute last.
I think it would be a
resort.
last resort. Yeah.
Okay.
For
See, and
heating
I
methods.
would accept that.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, I think it is acceptable only in that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, man, it's not a pleasant experience.
No. Well, yeah.
So
it heats it wrong.
right. So then let's take this to the next step.
Okay.
So then what is the best way to reheat pizza? And first, I would just remind you, if you think we're absolutely wrong and microwaved pizza is the bomb or the best way to reheat it, certainly email us. We're probably going to delete your email, but no,
Block
I'm kidding.
it.
No. But it'd be interesting to know how many of you out there prefer microwaving your pizza. And now moving into my question a little bit, now that we got that taken care of. For you, Jordan, what do you think is the best way to reheat pizza?
Toaster oven.
Toaster oven.
Yep.
It's like a pizza oven. Kind of same deal,
Sure.
right?
I don't have a pizza oven, but sure.
Toaster oven. It's
Okay.
essentially the same thing, just not as big, right?
Okay.
Could be wrong. I don't own one. I'm trying to get you to tell me if it's correct.
I don't own a pizza oven, so it's hard for me to say if it is or not. Yeah. So we have a toaster oven. We don't have a normal toaster.
Okay.
So,
That's what you make all your toast in?
yep.
That seems like a lot of work.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's just like a little door you open up
I know.
and you stick your bread in.
I can't wrap my mind around not using a toaster.
Okay. I mean, that's
I'm not judging you. I'm just saying I can't wrap my mind around
That's okay.
not having a toaster.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy you a toaster.
Please don't. We don't have space.
Oh, you'll
That's
have
part of the
space for
reason we
this
have a
one.
toaster oven. It's because it's multi-purpose.
We're going to mount it to
Pizza.
the wall.
Can you stick a piece of pizza in your toaster and have it come out good?
Absolutely. So toaster oven.
Yeah.
Would you change your mind if you had a pizza oven, you think?
I mean, I feel like a pizza oven would probably, accomplish the same thing. So, and that's a very unitasker object, a pizza oven.
Sure.
So that's why I go with toaster oven. Because it crisps it up but it heats it all the way through.
Sure.
So I think it almost gives you more of like a pan pizza some of the
Sure.
times because it does get it really crisp on the bottom.
Sure. Yeah, we don't have a toaster oven. We don't have a pizza oven. But anyways, so we've just got a toaster and we've got an oven.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the oven.
Sure.
Well, in a microwave, but we already established I'm not going to use that.
Unless you absolutely
Unless
have
I
to.
had to. The other thing that I've seen.
I like the oven. I think you get a lot of the benefits from the toaster oven that you get with the oven, but it just takes less time to heat up.
Sure. That's fair. The other method I've seen, people will. Who was it? It might have been Elton Brown.
I think I already know where
Sure.
you're going with
Cast
this.
iron.
Yeah, in a pan.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I would like to try that because that guy's brilliant when it comes to food.
I
So-
love Elton Brown.
Yeah.
Please sponsor us, Good Eats.
Yes.
Oh,
We should have him here.
I'll email him.
Elton Brown, you have been officially invited. When you hear this,
Yes.
just shoot us an email, philosophyotc@gmail.com, and
Yes.
and we'll have you here. Hopefully by then, Ricky the rat will have moved out.
I'll ensure Ricky's removal.
It would be sweet if we could actually cook something together while you're here.
Anything.
Teach us something. I don't care what it is.
Yes.
So that'd be awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, I want Elton Brown on the show.
I know. Me too. I've got a few people in the works
Okay.
that I'd like to have on the show, talk about some things.
Perfect.
We're gonna bring in some guests here, hopefully in the next, I don't know, few episodes. We'll see what we're able to do. Depends on their schedules and and ours. But that's in the works. We're gonna plan some of that. Maybe we'll have some pizza, reheated pizza,
Reheated pizza in the microwave.
But
Oh,
cool.
shoot. That'd be gross.
Yeah,
We would never have any guests again.
I bet we would. We should probably make them eat something gross while we're here. They're here anyways.
Any guest that comes, they have to eat
guest.
something gross.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see what we come up with.
We'll figure something out. But oven.
What about an oven?
Well, that's what you're saying. That's your choice.
Yeah,
You have the ability though to do the pan reheat.
I do. It takes a lot of time.
It does.
Haven't done
How
it.
long do you cover it when you are heating it in the pan? Does that make sense? So like the top gets hot too? 'Cause I feel like it would take too long to get the entire thing warm all the way through purely from the bottom
I
up.
think you do cover it.
Okay.
I don't
Interesting.
remember. It's been a while since I've
So-
seen him do it.
Watch a YouTube.
Yes. Well, Jordan, that's all the time we got for this episode. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. Always feel free to shoot us comments, questions, anything like that to our email, philosophyotc@gmail.com. Having a lot of fun. Hope you are too. Hoping that you are getting something out of these. It was great to have you. And Jordan, we got some fun stuff next week.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I swear, you guys, I don't look like a woman at all. I hope I don't sound like one either. I hope I don't sound like one either. Anyways, you guys, thanks for listening. Looking forward to next episode. See you later.
Bye.